STEM presentation, and we'll turn this presentation over to the science team. And before I turn it over to the team, I'd like to recognize you and recognize to the school committee and thank you that you have become a team. You immediately bonded, and you complement one another, you learn from one another, you have mentored one another, and as a result, I think the school committee is going to be very impressed. We talked about a plan. We've almost come to that point of a formalized plan, but the options you've created, the work you're doing looking ahead for science in the Milton Public Schools and STEM, I want to thank you.
Thank you. What we are planning to do tonight is share with you some of the exciting things that are happening in STEM and science here in the district. We're going to begin by presenting some data briefly, and then we're going to discuss first STEM and then science at all three levels from the lens of where are we now and where do we hope to go. So this data has already been presented by principals at previous presentations, but we wanted to share it with you again because this is the data that drives all of the work that we are doing around science and STEM in the district. So it's just a historical perspective on the MCAS for science, technology, and engineering at 5th, 8th, and 10th grade, and then the high school biology MCAS for 9th and 10th grade.
So I'm going to begin tonight's presentation at the elementary level. Take it out. I'll begin tonight's presentation to speak to the STEM experiences that we have currently in grades 1, 2, and 3 in the English Innovation Pathway. But I do want to note that later in the presentation, I'll be speaking more to the general science curriculum, and I wanted to note that all students, regardless of if they're in the English Innovation Pathway or the French Immersion Program, are exposed to STEM experiences through their general science curriculum, including the FOSS program that I'll go into a little bit more detail about later. But for right now, I just would love to take the opportunity to highlight the exciting things that are happening right now in the grade 1, 2, and 3 classrooms in the English Innovation Pathway, and some things that we are thinking about going forward to expand this program. So currently, the first grade classrooms are implementing the Lego engineering curriculum, which was designed with a partnership through Tufts a few years ago. So this is the third year of implementation for these first grade classrooms. I was lucky enough to be a first grade teacher the year that this was piloted, and I really can't say enough about how amazing it is to see first graders act and think like engineers and persist in solving a problem and collaborate with one another to design and redesign and redesign and redesign and defend their answers through this program. So it's been a delight to watch as a teacher, and now in the position as an elementary science coordinator, it really is fantastic. In second grade, the students are engaged in the Lego We Do robotics program. So this is now the second year this program has been implemented in grade 2. And this program allows students to build simple robots using Legos, and then they program these robots by using this developmentally appropriate computer programming software, the Lego We Do robotics program. And they build programs that allow their robots that they built themselves to move and make sound, and they learn that computers and robots don't just work magically on their own, but someone is behind the scenes creating these computer programs, which is a really important part of it. Now, in grade 3, this has expanded to implement the creative computing curriculum. So this felt to me like a really nice way to expand the program, because the students are getting more in depth about computer programming, but we're taking away that hands-on piece of the robot. So in second grade, they've learned what a computer program does because they see it actually manipulating this robot. Now that they have that concept down, in third grade, we take that away and they use the creative computing curriculum to build different programs using Scratch. And Scratch is a computer programming language that was developed at the MIT Media Lab. So our third grade English innovation teachers were involved in a professional development experience earlier this year with Michelle Chung, who is one of 3 co-authors of the creative computing curriculum. And that was a really special day for our third grade teachers. A lot of them walked into the room a little apprehensive. They may have never heard of Scratch, or they were a little weary about jumping right in. And by the time they left, they were laughing and having fun with each other and building computer programs that told a story. So it was really nice to see their shift in thinking, and it's been really great to see this implemented in classrooms and see what students can do. One of the best parts about creative computing is that it can be adapted to incorporate math, science, reading, writing, so students can use this computer programming program to incorporate other content areas, which really is the goal. So that's been very fun. As far as where we're going, I'm starting to explore options, or I'm continuing to explore options for what this will look like next year in grade 4. Two that come to mind are code.org, which is another curriculum that would further enhance the exploration of computer programming. And the Milton Public Schools did partner with code.org a little bit last year through the Hour of Code, and that was a week-long period where schools were encouraged to have all students participate in 1 hour of computer coding using the code.org website. So it was free curriculum where the kids could engage in these activities, and at the elementary level, we loved it. Kindergartners were coding, teachers were coding, 5th graders were coding. Janet Sheen got to see it as the principal of the Collycott School, and we just had so much fun with it. So that's one option that we're looking into, and I'm attending a full-day Saturday professional development on that in December, and looking forward to learning more about it. And the other option that I'm looking into at this point is Project Lead the Way, which Karen referred to a little bit in her last presentation. It sounds like a really exciting option. I had a chance to meet with some of the representatives from Project Lead the Way at a recent STEM summit, and we'll be learning more about this program soon. But it's a program that allows students to engage in engineering and design while aligning it to the Common Core and science standards. So that's something we're exploring, and we're also thinking about ways to enhance the professional development around STEM in Milton. And we wanted to include some pictures of these programs in action. So you'll see this at each level, but right here what we have is a very proud first grader showing off his car that he designed and redesigned after testing it. That's a hard skill for anyone, but especially for a first grader, to not just say, I built it and it's done, but to be able to think through the process of the engineer design process and think about ways to improve upon their design. So that car was something he was very proud of, and then he drew and wrote about it. In second grade, you see a few students working together to build the Dancing Birds robot, and then it being plugged into the computer, and you can see the beginnings of a computer program for the Dancing Birds. So they worked together to make the birds move in one direction together, in the other direction together, and then actually in opposite directions. So it was really fun and exciting for them. And then over on the other side are a few clips from the creative computing curriculum. So that's a little snapshot of what Scratch might look like on a screen, and there are a couple students engaging on it on desktop computers. We'll move on to middle school now.
I'm excited to share with you some of the unique STEM opportunities we have available to our students at the Pierce. As Karen mentioned in her presentation, we offer intensive studies in science, technology, engineering, and math, our iSTEM courses. And this year, we're currently offering 3 courses, one in computers, one in advanced math, and one in advanced science. We also have a variety of past classes that are offered to students after school. Right now, we're offering engineering design, rocketry, there's a coding programming course, and robotics. We are continuing, we're already in discussions in the spring with some of our science teachers and some of our math teachers about other opportunities they might like to pursue with students. Science fair help becomes a big sort of club past class, which we'll talk about later as we talk about the science fair. We were fortunate last year in the spring to receive a $10,000 grant from the Blue Hills Charitable Foundation to support fieldwork in environmental science. With this grant, we purchased 2 curriculum units that we're going to be using in our science iSTEM course. In addition, we purchased a lot of equipment for fieldwork around ponding and outdoor, just in general, data collection that both the iSTEM and our 7th grade science curriculum will be using this year. Thanks to the generous support of the Milton Foundation for Education, we were able to purchase Lego Mindstorm materials, which were used for a summer content institute that happened this past summer. And those Lego materials are currently being used for a past class on robotics. And also, we are in plans to think about how we can use them with our 7th grade planetary science curriculum to do a link for 7th graders who are in computer programming and taking that planetary science as part of their science curriculum to think about how they could build Mars rovers. So that's our next grant we're thinking about pursuing and currently working on, I guess. We also have science fair as a mandatory requirement for students in our science iSTEM course, which has enabled us to guarantee some solid participation, although it's open to all students in the entire school. We know we have this sort of base of students that are working on it, and we're continuing to try to think about how we can always advance that level of participation. These are some of our more enthusiastic students. So it gets us a core group of 7th graders who participate the first time in 7th grade and then are often very excited to pursue it again in the 8th grade.
Ms. Geppetta, for this, I know the school committee knows, but perhaps the viewing audience, when you talk about past classes, would you explain?
Yes, so those, and I may need some correction on this, but they are 8-week after-school classes that are offered by teachers as an elective. I believe there's a small fee associated with them, but it can be waived for students as well. So we offer past classes in they could be a sports past class, it could be anything. Actually think Mr. Stote offers one on cinematography. There's all kinds of different ones, but we've been working really hard to try to incorporate some of those STEM opportunities as well.
That's really to Mrs. Kelly's point. Those are for students who aren't in one of the iSTEM classes in school. Our goal would be for all students who are at the Pierce Middle School, but you're creating those options in the after-school program.
Yes. In terms of where we're going, we are always trying to further develop the iSTEM courses that we do offer. So we're trying to think about how we can sort of increase the opportunities that we have. It's this really unique chance to do something different for kids because it's sort of beyond our regular curriculum. So we're always trying to enhance those, but we are also working really hard to increase the opportunities to enable all students to participate. So as we talked about earlier, we have a plan to pilot an expanded STEM curriculum next year. It's not going to be able to reach all students, but we are going to be able to reach a larger number of students, in part because we realize that there are a lot of students that could really benefit from that hands-on opportunity. We want to try to maximize the impact of STEM. One of the things that we are looking at is Project Lead the Way. It's a nationally recognized curriculum, but the Massachusetts and possibly even the New England sort of home base for it is at WPI. And so they run all of their professional development out of there, and that is where sort of the lead of the project for this area is. We met with them, both Bernadette and I, at the STEM Summit and heard a lot more about their program. They offer a sequence of courses. The first course is on design and modeling. It's sort of a general engineering type course. And that, for us, ideally, all students would have access to. It's sort of a baseline technology engineering course that is aligned to the new state science standards that are taking effect next year. And if kids were exposed to this course, from there's then a menu of very rich and exciting courses that they could move on to. And actually, technically, you don't have to take the design and modeling course, but in talking with them, it would give all students a very solid foundation that would allow them to be successful in those other courses. So there were things like medical detectives, robotics. The next step was sort of a large menu of lots of different opportunities.
So I'd like to recognize Ms. Geppetta and Dr. Spalding because their work with this really organization working out of Worcester Polytech. We thought that if the intermediate STEM program began to work out of that program, it would be a perfect lead-in to the middle school and build on those skills. But again, Ms. Moon is still exploring finishing out the 4th and 5th grade STEM experience, but it would be a perfect continuum from K through grade 8.
So we also have some pictures to share with you tonight to help you get a sense of our program. The first pictures we have are pictures of our students on a field trip, for the iSTEM students for science, learning about the Cape Cod Canal. They've done research projects in class, and then they took a visit to the canal where they learned all about the sort of history and the engineering behind the canal, and now they are, as Ms. Flanagan talked about, currently developing teacher's guides to help teach people about the Cape Cod Canal. In the middle, you see some pictures of students participating in a past class. This particular past class is one on engineering design challenges. The teacher facilitating it uses a variety of different engineering curriculum that are available to have kids completing these challenges. And then the third set on the right is photos of the robots from, these I believe are from the Summer Content Institute using the Lego Mindstorms, but we also have students continuing work on them in a past class after school.
Can I ask a question?
Ms. Bagley Jones?
Before we go on to the high school, you're going on to high school, right? When I look at what you said, and sort of what I said before, but a little bit differently, when you say where are we going, and it says increase opportunities to enable all students, I like that language, but I'd like it to be more specific and directive. I mean, I'm really a big supporter of the STEM program, but I always get a little disappointed when I hear it's for the kids that are already doing fairly well in many areas, because so many different learning challenges for kids could be really impacted by this hands-on kind of stuff. So I worry that those kids who might fly under the radar aren't going to get aren't going to apply or be a part of it, or have somebody notice that they're not applying because they're the kids flying under the radar. So they stay in the back of the room and they don't, whatever. And then I also think our advancement budget has been so focused on getting our subgroups academic achievement up that this to me feels like, wait a minute, this should be more connected to that. So those are just my observations and thoughts. And I'm very supportive of what you're doing and appreciative of it, but I'd like to see that first line under where we're going, especially because Dr. Spalding is so good at writing grants, to be about how do we get all kids to get this hands-on type of experience? Not to make more work for you.
Well, absolutely. I look forward, further in my presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit more around our work at the Pierce, and particularly in science, around those proficiency gaps. But one of the things Dr. Spalding, Dr. Lagueros, and Greg Forge and I had a meeting to try to sort of think through what's our plan for STEM. And a big topic of that discussion was really recognizing that this is an opportunity to support some of our students who may have academic challenges to really have the exposure. And one of the benefits, part of our plan next year is to really work it into that computer programming coursework. And though many of those students are students that wouldn't necessarily be the same students that would be in those iSTEM courses. It's serving a different student population. That's a much more general population elective. So I actually think in working it in there, it will fit really nicely. In this particular program, the Project Lead the Way, and talking more with them about that introductory course, which we're hoping to implement, it really has a lot more around, there's some it's a lot about drawing, sort of designing these gliders. Actually, the very first activity is one of Dr. Spalding and my favorite things to do with kids, which is a take-apart shop where kids just take apart some sort of device, whether it's an electronic thing, and just try to figure out what makes it work. So it's a lot about using tools and taking things apart. And so it's a very different way to think about design and modeling that I think will address those kids.
Great. I want to do that.
So before I begin about high school, I do apologize for my voice. I'm at the very end of a cold, so it's kind of in and out a little bit today. So I'll try to make it through as efficiently as I can, our couple slides on high school. And where I'd like to start with STEM at Milton High School is going back a little bit to the school year 2008-2009, when we first introduced, with our dedicated teachers and the help of Milton Foundation for Education, our biotechnology lab. which in a short 6 years has truly grown at the high school level. And for the first time this year, we've offered 2 distinct biotechnology courses, an introductory semester course to get students kind of engaged and interested. It's only a half a year, so we have that kind of hook to it. And if the students are hooked in that introductory course, we now offer a full year course which goes into more of the ideology and the theory behind biotechnology, getting kids into labs out in the field. We do have them go on to careers, to school field trips. We had one just a couple weeks ago where students heard lectures of biotechnologists, the different science fields that they're doing in industry at the college and university level as well. And also getting students using newer equipment, experiences that they have here, which several students in their high school careers may not have that opportunity and see it for the first time at the college or university level. So we're really excited and really appreciative to allow our students that opportunity here at Milton High School. Where we've gone more recently in 2013 to actually this coming spring semester is 6 teachers at Milton High School are going through a STEM certification program that we've received through Blue Hill grants applied and also been accepted for. And these 6 teachers will become STEM certified through the Krista McAuliffe Center, which is through Framingham State. And it's run by a company known as Pt2, Parametric Technology Corporation. So just a quick blurb about Pt2 and what they do. They are a private company who develops software for big name companies such as Boeing, Rolls-Royce, and also different fields within the military. And what this software does is it allows product design. So the project managers that we have located here in Needham, Massachusetts, have tried to take what Pt2 offers out to the corporate world and bring it into the classrooms. So they've offered a 2-part course to the STEM certification. And as our teachers have gone through the first part, they've learned about what the software is, what can the teachers do with it, and what can they bring into the classroom to allow the students to do with it. What can they build, what can they design? And then in the second part of the course, teachers have actually designed a unit that incorporates engineering and technology to curriculum and content standards. And we'll talk a little bit about where we would like our 6 teachers to go with what units they've developed and they've offered through this opportunity. I would also like to talk a little bit about implementation of something called Biograph. Biograph is a computer simulation program that's been developed by MIT, the Media Lab that Bernadette was referencing earlier, and UPenn. And what this goal is to bring STEM specifically into the biology classroom. So for the past 2 years, I've worked with MIT and UPenn to learn how this should be implemented, how it connects with the science, technology, engineering frameworks, as well as the next generation science standards that are being implemented and released nationwide. And last year I worked with all of our high school biology teachers in June, training them on this software, on this programming. And so far this year, we've implemented 2 out of the 5 actual content pieces. And we'll see a couple pictures of that on the next slide that the students have gone through. But again, this is trying to really bring the technology, the engineering piece to the science content. So taking those integrative aspects of STEM and incorporating them into our science disciplines that we have here at the high school. And lastly, we're working currently with the Advancement Initiative to help purchase laptops and various lab equipment that will be used across all of our science classes with all of our science teachers to, again, get the technology into the classrooms to allow our students with various sensors, various probes, whether it's on something of pH levels, temperature levels, light photons, analyzing data and how to make it applicable to real-world situations. So with all the talking that Bernadette and Christy have done, this next implementation piece of where are we going was actually a collaboration between myself and our mathematics department chair, Courtney Miller. And we want to look at where can we go from here with all of the work that's being done at the elementary schools, all of the work that's being done at Pierce to challenge our students once they reach the high school level. And with all the goals that we have, how can we still keep them engaged with the increase of skills that they're going to have when they get to the high school in a few years? So going back to the STEM certification course, we're hoping to begin implementation next year, the 2015-2016 school year. All of the authored units that our teachers have designed, implementing them into our classrooms here at Milton High School, and getting that engineering, getting that technology component into our math classes and into our science classes. We hope after that to become or create a full STEM elective, for example, engineering of the future or engineering by design. So now focusing on the technology, on the engineering standards, and integrating it beyond just science and math, but also bringing in the history, the English, and the arts as well into that elective. And then further going along, year 3 down the line of our implementation goal is looking at broadening those electives. You know, knowing that our students are going to have an increased skill in terms of technology and engineering, and allowing them the courses that they can experiment with those skills. For example, a course potentially such as astronomy, or also using the model that our humanities department has used with our debate class being competitive, is turning our robotics elective that we have now and working with Mr. Diamond and making this school day course our competitive course as well. The last little note up here is that with PTC, their software is quite expensive. And to run it in multiple computers, we're looking at a price tag of about $60,000 per computer. So if they see that our teachers are working on this implementation piece, the students are engaging in these curriculums, these authored design units, and you are showing them your progress as a STEM initiative in our curriculums, they do award schools the opportunity to become a PTC Academy, where all of that is donated for free. And hopefully with this implementation plan, that we can become a PTC Academy, be recognized by PTC, and continue to work with them in the future on developing new units and also all of the software updates that their company goes through as well.
Wow.
Mr. Zulus?
So how many, if you're a PTC Academy, how many computers do they outfit?
So for however many courses we need, we will get that number of licenses to meet our students.
That's a great goal.
So just to show you some work that we are doing now in the field of STEM already, in the upper left-hand corner, we're looking at some of Miss Parsons' students in her elective of the robotics, that the students build their own individual robots and have their in-class competition amongst themselves on design and whatever other challenges they may be given, again, as a class. If we move down to the bottom left-hand corner, also our computer science, also taught by Ms. Parsons at the high school, we did receive a grant that allowed us to purchase a 3D printer. So what you're looking at with those expo markers are held in was actually created by students using computer software and was printed with our 3D printer. So it has become a very popular elective in students engaging in what can they build that can be useful not only in the classrooms, but what can we build, design, and give to teachers to make effective in the classrooms for the teachers and the students as well. Moving towards the middle of the screen, we're looking at students actively engaged in our biotechnology lab, again, where they have the ability to create synthetic DNA, run DNA with state-of-the-art software that we had a huge donation of last year, as well as analysis and learning the new techniques that are being applied not only in industry, but also what they would see during their college or university experience. And again, a similar picture as to what Bernadette had. As the biograph simulations are also from the MIT Media Lab, our student skills coming out of the elementary schools, they will have seen this format before, which puts them as a step ahead to now knowing how to do the blocks, the coding in their computer software program, and then students applying it onto those screens, the Chromebook screens, to run a software. So for example, the last one that our students engaged in last week was all about cell transport and how once we take molecules, nutrients, for example, drinking a soda, once it goes into the body, how does it move through all of the layers in the body to get into the bloodstream and move around.
Okay, now moving on into elementary science. I just want to start by saying that this year in science at the elementary level, specifically in grades 3, 4, and 5, has been so exciting and such a difference from last year and in the years I'm imagining previous. It's just so evident that science is a priority and that you can overhear teachers talking about science and comparing student science notebooks and talking about these little critters that are being delivered to their doors and just having so many meaningful conversations that weren't taking place before because the teachers didn't have the materials to implement science in an effective way. So I just want to say that it's been an exciting year, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it in the years to come. So thanks to the advancement budget, teachers are feeling supported, and we have a full-time elementary science coordinator, which is myself, and I spend time in each school each week. I participate in grade level meetings. I'm in classrooms observing lessons. We're having meaningful conversations around student writing in science and the activities that are taking place in the classroom. Teachers love having these brand new science materials in their hands. It's so funny to get emails and phone calls and requests from 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers for more crayfish or more snails or more bugs. They've really taken a liking to it. They can see the inspiration in the students' eyes, and it's just really contagious. So with the help of the advancement budget, we do have the elementary science coordinator. We do have a new science curriculum in grades 3, 4, and 5, and that is the full option science system, which will be referred to as FOSS. So it is aligned with science, technology, and engineering standards. Each grade level has a life science, an earth and space science, and a physical science unit, so it's well-rounded. And in addition, teachers have already attended one full day of professional development per grade level. So the 3rd grade teachers attended a full day, the 4th grade teachers attended a full day, and the 5th grade teachers attended a full day. And just to let you know, too, that I had referred to the English Innovation Pathway in the 3rd grade professional development being a really powerful session, but this FOSS professional development session for these teachers was invaluable. They walked out of there so excited to teach science. We were so lucky to have this woman named Johanna Strange from Kentucky, who's a FOSS trainer. She came here, and she was one of those people that is just so enthusiastic and organized and passionate. And the teachers just took such a liking to her. They were having these dynamic conversations. They got to dig right into some of the investigations the students would be doing. And actually, the 3rd grade teachers, during their lunch break, pooled their money. They took it amongst themselves to pool some money and buy this trainer flowers on their lunch break and present them to her as a thank you. I can't say enough about this. It was just so fantastic, and she continues to email and ask about specific teachers and how is she doing with this. I know she was a little nervous, and the teachers have been emailing her. It was just a really nice bond and a good way to kick off a new curriculum that seemed a little intimidating for many teachers. So that's definitely been a positive aspect. In addition, some exciting things that are happening related to the FOSS units are the use of science notebooks in every 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classroom. This is huge because it's a documentation of student learning. They can see where they were at the beginning and where they are now. They're referring back to notes that they may have taken 2 weeks ago. I've been in classrooms, I've seen them in action, and they are not just for show. These are being used every day, and the kids really rely on them. They're going back and adding to notes that they had taken during an activity before. So it's really exciting to see that, and we're hoping that that will improve student writing in science and keep a documentation of student growth and achievement in the classroom. In addition, FOSS does embed science assessments, and those include open responses. They include pre- and post-tests. So teachers are using them in the classroom. They're having conversations about what they're noticing, and we're going to continue to refine these assessments and make them work for Milton. So we may be pulling from some past MCAS questions and using some of the FOSS assessment questions to create something that really is meaningful for teachers to use to drive their instruction in science. Some other exciting things that have been happening in the elementary schools is the successful science fairs that have taken place thanks to the tremendous effort of parents at each school. We're really lucky to have groups of parents that are really dedicated to science education. Some pockets of parents are really interested in spearheading the science fairs, where others are more interested in the outdoor classroom initiative. So we're very lucky to have that, and I'm happy to say that last year I attended and was part of 4 very well-attended, fun, and successful science fairs in each school. Another thing to highlight is that the Science from Scientists program, which began as a pilot last year in the Cunningham and Collycott 5th grade classrooms, has now expanded into all 4 schools in all of the 5th grades. So this means that 2 scientists visit each 5th grade classroom on a biweekly basis, and they deliver a hands-on science lesson that's aligned to standards. So it's the same 2 scientists that visit the same classroom throughout the year. So the teacher develops this working relationship with the scientist and can have conversations and ask questions about different topics, and they actually get to watch a science topic taught by someone else, which is really powerful for teachers to see. And students also develop a relationship with the scientists, and they learn to love science and become interested in it. So that's exciting. Teachers can also earn PDPs through this program by writing and implementing follow-up lessons to what the scientists teach, and they have to submit their lessons to the scientists and get feedback and have conversations around science instruction. So that's an exciting piece of that we are exploring currently. When we look ahead about where we are going with science at the elementary level, something that does come to mind is the kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade science curriculum, and thinking about ways to enhance or align that science curriculum to standards and making it a more meaningful experience for all of our kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade students. So that when they get to 3rd grade and become involved in these dynamic FOSS units, they're ready for it. They're used to using science notebooks, or they're used to having these hands-on experiences. So that's something that we are thinking about. Another thing is to continue the implementation of the FOSS unit. So it's a multi-year plan. We followed Pierce's lead after purchasing the curriculum. We didn't want to implement it all at once in an effort not to overwhelm teachers. So all teachers are implementing 2 new science units this year, and then next year we'll implement the remaining unit. So to continue that as a goal. Also to continue professional development experiences around curriculum instruction and the new draft standards that are currently out for all teachers K to 5. To continue to use and develop the science assessments that are in FOSS, and also we're excited that the Milton Foundation for Education is focusing on STEAM for their celebration event, so we're looking forward to bringing more enrichment in that area to the elementary level. And also thinking about outdoor classroom experiences for every school. So as I mentioned before, we do have some dedicated parents at each school that are interested in working with me and with classroom teachers to give students the opportunity to get outside and get their hands dirty. But every school has a different layout and is in a different stage of that. So working with teachers and parents to make that a meaningful experience for all.
Ms. Moonen, before you leave, one of your bullets on the top, and you deserve a tremendous amount of credit for this, the relationship you developed with the Milton Foundation for Education around Sam's Fund, and it's very timely for you to share the funds from that race where they are targeted.
Thank you. I must have missed that, but I'm not looking at the slides. I'm looking at my notes, so thank you for pointing that out.
And you would be modest in skipping that because Bernadette Moonen the MFE gave Bernadette a tremendous amount of credit in the success of this year's Monster Dash and the enthusiasm that you created in the district and the work that you do with the MFE.
Well, I feel lucky to have the Milton Foundation for Education working with me because they do so much work and they use the children as their compass. All they're thinking about is what is going to benefit these kids in the classrooms. And last year, I was lucky enough to partner with the Monster Dash chairs, and we met very frequently and talked about ideas that would enrich what's already going on in the classrooms. And I was lucky enough to have an elementary science table at the Monster Dash last year where kids could come and interact with some different science activities. And last year, we were able to purchase enrichment materials or experiences for every grade level K to 5. which was exciting because in past years it had been more field trip experiences for grades 3, 4, and 5. And as a former first grade teacher, I really wanted to make sure that our youngest learners were getting some of the benefit from that as well. So that was really powerful and exciting last year. We just had the Monster Dash a few weeks ago. It was wildly successful. It was a great day all around. I saw some people there. And it was just fun. There were so many happy people there. Kids were at the elementary science table. We had Science from Scientists come and volunteer their time to staff a table where they had interactive activities that came right from some of the lessons that will be in the 5th grade classrooms. We had the Trailside Museum there with an owl display inside of Cunningham Hall. And I am working right now with teachers and administrators and the Milton Foundation for Education to think about ways that we can use the funds raised from that very, very successful event to enhance what's already happening K-5. And we had, and with that bullet too, I don't want to leave out also the Blue Hills grant that allowed for some great experiences at the other levels, also allowed for some great experiences at the elementary level. We had the Glover School accepted a grant from Glover School to become a weather bug school. So they have a weather bug station on top of the school. And then with funds from the Monster Dash, every single school, every single grade level has the WeatherBug Achieve software. So teachers can log on to WeatherBug Achieve on the smartboard and see the data streaming from the top of Glover School. So it's this really cool experience. And we also got some science materials from the Blue Hills grant for the Tucker School and some outdoor classroom materials for a first grade teacher at the Cunningham School. So it's all exciting stuff. And again, with some neat pictures of some of the experiences kids K-5 are having. We have in the top left corner our kindergartners using the discovery ramps and some kindergarten science notebooks that show pictures of the discovery ramps and them explaining their thinking. Those were purchased with funds from the Monster Dash last year, and I actually brought those as one of my activities this year. Kindergartners love these discovery ramps, and they're so fun. The bottom left are some first graders exploring engineering concepts with the Legos. We have Science from Scientists in the middle of the screen. And then up at the top right, some excerpts from science notebooks. And the bottom right are some students in our schools engaging in the FOSS curriculum. So some of the FOSS lessons have students going outside to learn. Some activities are in the classroom. So it's really fun for the kids, and they're having a great time.
So where are we now at the Pierce Middle School in science? I was fortunate to be hired last year as the Pierce was about to implement some exciting science initiative thanks to the advancement budget. Last year, we implemented 3 new science units. We implemented a unit on the nature of light in 6th grade, the first half of a FOSS populations and ecosystems unit in 8th grade, and a unit called Experimenting with Forces in Motion. This year, as year 2 of our implementation plan, we're implementing 3 more units. Our 6th grade teachers are implementing currently, right now, the newest FOSS Earth History unit, and this was actually delayed because it just was released in the spring, so we were able to make some changes to get the most recent version. Our 7th grade teachers are actually going to be implementing the second half of one of those units, the ecosystems unit. The unit itself was very large, and it was actually one of their adjustments that FOSS is actually making is splitting the unit into 2 pieces. So they're working with us to sort of think about how we can just divide it between the 2 grades now. And then our 8th grade teachers are investigating weather and climate as part of a new unit. In addition to that, we are, by the end of this year, we will have developed and implemented common end-of-unit assessments for all of these new units and the units that we had that were our 7th grade units, which were the year before I began. They were relatively new as well. We are also in the process of developing and piloting district-determined measures for science at all 3 grade levels. And we've been spending a lot of time on professional development to support these new units and also to support our teachers' goals this year for the evaluation system around decreasing the proficiency gap. And to just sort of elaborate on that a little further, Myself and all of our science teachers have set team goals as part of the new evaluation process, focusing on decreasing proficiency gaps. For science, we are specifically focusing on the achievement gap between our African American Black students and white students. So our professional development at our common planning time team meetings has been around analyzing our data, and we're going to be focusing on implementing and evaluating strategies for engagement.
If I might, Ms. Gepetta, I think this is very important. The school committee hears about the new evaluation tool. We haven't had a presentation on the new evaluation tool, but translated for the layman watching, all of the science teachers will have the same goal. And so, as Christy said in their common planning time, when they're uploading their evidence that you're familiar with to support whether they're achieving their goal, they all have, again, a common goal, a common language, and they're helping one another, and they're working under the direction of their department head. So I know in my conversations with Dr. Spalding, that was really very, for you to do, it was very forward-thinking, and again, it set really a standard for other administrators to put that goal out there and to have all of the teachers own that goal. I want to compliment you.
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to my teachers because this was probably not an easy task to take on. When you think about achievement gap, it's a daunting task, but they were really willing to take a challenge and see what we can do. So a big part of it was we knew what the data said, and now we're really just trying to figure out how do we move the dial here. And so there's a lot of, in the true spirit of science, investigating and trying to see what we can do. But really, for us, and this actually was a teacher-driven idea, our goal is to first target engagement and see, as we're monitoring students and really looking at the students we've identified as the highest need students in our classrooms, how can we increase their engagement? And so that's what a lot of our professional development time is going to be spent on, thinking about that. So in terms of where we are going, we're going to continue to evaluate and adjust our program to take into consideration and align ourselves to the new science and technology engineering standards that were released last year and will go into effect starting next fall. That's the latest word we received as of a few weeks ago. And our new curriculum is well aligned, but there are some new standards that we just need to make sure we're targeting sufficiently, and we have a pretty good plan around that. In the implementation for year one, we operated under the assumption that the new standards were going to be adopted, and as our last word from the state was that they're going to be adopted with minimal changes. So that actually worked out well for us. We also need to continue to develop a system for tracking and analyzing student data. So now I've created a situation where the teachers and myself are collecting a lot of data, and we need to figure out what's our system for analyzing, tracking it, recording it. And so that's something we really need to think about and work on. By hand is a little bit tedious, and we're working out of Excel right now, but we need to investigate some other options around that to think about what we can do with all this data. And then we need to continue to develop and increase our participation in the science fair. And thanks to Bernadette's work at the elementary level, we do have students coming to us really excited about the science fair. And last year at our science fair, we had a lot of parents talking about their kids' experiences in the elementary science fair and how even after elementary they were thinking about things that they wanted to try at the middle school science fair. So that's a real goal of ours in terms of family engagement as well, is to just really think about this is a great opportunity to bring families into our school to see this great work, and how do we increase that, and how do we get more students participating. And so we have some teachers that have already agreed to do science fair help after school. We have students in Pierce Academy. One of my personal goals is to try to figure out how I can work with some of those students to get engaged and take that after school time to really support them. But overall, I think last year was a huge success, and so hopefully that will bring a lot more students back this year for the same thing. And so we also have some pictures to share. On the left side, you have an example of students conducting investigation from the new FOSS Earth History curriculum, and below that are some notebook samples from our 6th graders, which are rather impressive, I must say. We've actually asked one of the sixth grade science teachers to work with some of the elementary teachers as well on their notebooking. On the right side at the top, we have eighth graders working with one of our teachers to graph ocean floor data as part of our new STC weather and climate unit. And then down below, we have seventh grade students conducting a phase change investigation from our FOSS chemical interactions unit. And while the seventh grade teachers did not get new curriculum as part of the advancement budget, we did spend a significant amount of time both last year and this year on professional development around those units. So they actually, each grade level had 3 common planning days last year that we worked on developing pacing charts and aligning to curriculum. And so while those teachers didn't receive new materials, they did receive a lot of professional development on their curriculum to really strengthen it and improve their practice.
So where I'd like to start for science at the high school is one of the biggest driving forces right now is all of the redesign that's gone through all of our science advanced placement courses. So in the past 3 years, our AP Biology, AP Chemistry, and AP Physics courses have been redesigned with new national standards and objectives for the students. The biggest drive behind this redesign is bringing inquiry into our classrooms and also taking the content and having the students apply the information to real-world concepts. So with that, as a full department, we've sat down and we've said, how can we take the redesign at the advanced placement level and make those changes into our curriculum at the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade levels of your introductory biology, chemistry, and physics years at Milton High School to help all of our students increase their inquiry and also increase their application to real-world challenges. So with inquiry, that is actually the high school science team's focus for our goals, our team goals for the evaluation tool. We're looking to implement inquiry into more of what we already have, what can we enhance that exists in terms of the activities and labs, and also, again, apply them to these AP standards, really challenge our students to think outside of the box and outside of the textbook, outside of what the MCAS has, but really push our students into those real-world applications. At the department level, similar as to that you've heard already, is the high school has also received a full-time science coordinator, which the department is very grateful of, and we work very collaboratively together, especially on these next couple of bullets. These are our focuses for this year. All of our teachers have already designed and we're continuing to implement common end-of-unit assessments, but now what we're doing is with our common planning time that we've been granted and again are very appreciative of, is how can we take these assessments and make them better for our students? Again, testing that new knowledge, that new concepts of inquiry and application to the content that they receive in the science classroom. Similar to Christy had mentioned, at the Pierce, the high school science department is also working on developing, implementing district-determined measures during our pilot year this year. And again, teachers are collaborating by course and by grade level to what we would like to see in terms of our student growth and assessment. We've expanded this year the number of co-taught courses that we offer at the biology level. The reason that we've focused on biology is because that is our MCAS subject at the high school. So in Massachusetts, the public schools have a choice that they can choose if they would like to do the biology, physics, or chemistry MCAS. And as biology is our freshman course as they enter, and it is a graduation requirement, this is one opportunity we want to give the students upon entering high school so they can focus more on their other courses and their interests as they move through into their further PARCC testing and MCAS testing as well. And to help with that, we've also reintroduced our MCAS preparatory course that's offered in the spring semester to, again, help prepare students who might be identified to higher need, just an extra support before sitting for that exam in June. So where we would like to go, again, as a department working together, is we want to continue to evaluate and adjust our curriculums. Again, as Christy had mentioned, the new frameworks that will be released and implemented for next fall for the science, technology, and engineering frameworks for the state are now addressing the next generation science standards. And again, bringing the critical thinking, the inquiry, and the problem solving into the science classrooms for all science disciplines. As a science department, we started looking at these during the 2013-2014 school year. So we also have a leg up and have started to implement the new standards, and we'll be ready and fully prepared for the implementation next year as well. And we also want to take the time with our common planning time to work on assessing student data better. And a couple things that we're working with right now are school-wide rubrics, the NIAS design rubrics. Specifically in science, we're focusing on critical thinking, problem solving, technology use in the classroom, and effective communication, which could be in a variety of forms, oral communication, visual presentations given by students, again, giving the students kind of a variety. What is their avenue of success that they can use in the science classrooms? And the last thing just to make a note about that not only myself but the mathematics and department head chairs are looking at as well is different assessment software that exists. We're looking at piloting potentially. We have two right now that we are looking at, Edwin and Galileo assessment programs that will help give our students kind of live feedback on how they're doing with their assessments on top of our laboratory investigations, on top of our unit assessments, on top of midterm and final exams, just to get them used to other types of questions, again, more critical thinking application pieces that they can see with examples that's not only what we see in our textbooks, in our classrooms, in our experiences here, but also what they may experience outside of these walls at Milton High School. So lastly, just a couple of highlights that we see in science. Our chemistry classes have been very busy this year with hands-on labs and students exploring. This was a fun one that they did last week. The students were very excited. They were working with a little with fire, and they were a little nervous, but turned out to be really, really good success for our teachers and our students. They had a lot of fun with it. In the center section, we're looking at a co-taught course, again, offering our students to teachers in the classroom more of that individualized attention during our class periods. And all the way over to the right, we're looking at students working on writing in the science classrooms because writing has become a big component as essays and open responses are now on all MCAS and AP exams in both short essay and long essay versions for our students. So where we would like to hand it off now is to Mr. John Diamond to talk a little bit about robotics, the competitive robotics teams that we offer at Milton High School.
So we currently have 2 after-school robotics clubs that we offer here at the high school, one of which is brand new to us this year, and it's known as Zero Robotics. This is the first year of us implementing this, and it's pretty fascinating stuff, I think, because it's an international competition. So our students are competing against hundreds of other high schools around the world, not just in the regional area of New England. There's a lot of European teams, and there's an international leaderboard for us to post our scores and kind of check our competition and see how we're doing. It's pretty fascinating stuff. So the whole point of Zero Robotics is you're taking these spheres, they're called, which are synchronized position, hold, engage, and reorient experimental satellites. They're basically giant basketballs, basketball-sized computers, I guess is how you would say that. They have tons of sensors all over them. They can be repositioned in 3 dimensions, and the whole thing is that they are done in zero gravity, so they're done out in outer space. They're really fascinating, and the kids just love it. So with the programming, I'm no computer programmer, but the kids are just amazing at it due to Ms. Parsons' robotics and their computer science classes offered here. I get a lot of whiz kids who come along and they're like, oh yeah, I know all this, no problem. So they program in C++, which is a foreign language to me, but it's a fairly challenging coding program to run to get these spheres or these satellites to move around and do specific tasks. The finalists of this competition, which ends in about mid-January or so, they are selected to compete in a live championship aboard the International Space Station. Now, they're not like shipped up to the International Space Station or anything, but there are spheres that are already up on the ISS that the astronauts actually use, and so whichever team has the best program and can complete the task most efficiently is, their code is kind of shown by a live astronaut from outer space, and it's broadcasted to the school, and you get to actually see the astronaut perform your code in space aboard the International Space Station. It's pretty fascinating stuff. So we start off with 2D modeling, two-dimensional modeling, and now we're in the three-dimensional portion of it. So there's kind of mini challenges along the way. But right now we're kind of working on our final code to complete the game challenge, which does change every year. So you're dealing with all three dimensions, X, Y, and Z axis, and it's pretty challenging stuff to try and get your little sphere to do this, fairly simple task in outer space with tons of variables at hand. Things get thrown around, and there's a lot of things that really have to be taken into consideration for the students.
May I ask you a question, John, before you leave? This is your first year. Do you think in other school districts, this is a course during the day, or is it all after-school competition against after-school? Or do you know yet?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if other schools actually have a class for this or not, but it is very heavy on the computer programming. It's all done with simulations, and our students actually we meet once a week for a couple hours after school on Mondays, but that's nearly not enough time to really get everything taken care of. So the students actually do a lot of work outside of the school, and they email each other and they post on the website, and they all write their own codes over the weekend, and they get together in their houses and really work on it and take care of some of the coding issues. But I mean, it's a pretty time-consuming task for them, and I'm just impressed with what they can do. So as of right now, I'm not sure if other high schools offer it as a course.
It'll be interesting as you get more involved.
But yeah, to go along with what Amy is saying, for implementation of future STEM courses, this could definitely be something that could align with the AP Computer Science class or a regular computer science class in general. So something to look forward to. But it's definitely been really fascinating and interesting for the first year, so I'm excited about it. The other robotics club that we offer is currently in its fourth year here at the high school, and this is kind of our bread and butter, I think, is FTC First Tech Challenge Robotics. And this is like the definition of a STEM initiative. This league is really well run, I think. It's growing exponentially in the New England area. It grew 40% last year. There's like twice as many teams this year. It's really taking off. And as a result, we're kind of getting spread out farther and further to go to different schools and compete at different scrimmages and different meets. So with FTC Robotics, you have students designing, building, and programming a robot. So it's not just simulations like with Zero. You're actually hands-on metal parts, gears, wheels, getting your robot to move. There's a driver control portion. There is a program portion. So there's both computer programming and there's actual building. And I do have students who are very hands-on and very experienced with set building from the play. I get all those guys to come fairly soon because the play is this weekend. So I get all of them back, and it's just great to have them back and really contributing to the team. Excuse me. The challenge for this year, the challenge does change every year, just like with Zero Robotics. So this year is going to be different than next year, and it's different than last year. And the games they come up with are fairly challenging to the kids, and they are heavy on the computer programming autonomous stuff, which is they have to design a program where they just press a button and the robot does the specific task on the field with no assistance from them on the driver control portion. Some of the kids who are really excellent in video games just love using the controller so much, but then I got my computer programmers who can just press the button and they can do the exact same task as the driver control portion, so it's pretty excellent. So our team does attend various scrimmages and meets throughout the year to compete in a spot for the state meet, and the state meet is held at Bridgewater State University in March. And
10 scrimmages a year you're competing?
Oh, no, we don't. There are many scrimmages offered. We usually go to about 2 or 3, and then we attend one qualifying meet. Because again, there are so many teams, there's only so much space for each team at each event that they only really allow us to qualify at one meet for the
And for the last 2 years you've hosted?
Yes.
But you didn't compete when you hosted?
Right. So one thing that we've done the past 2 years is host one of these large meets at the Cunningham Collicott, which is a little challenging because the cafeteria is not too big, and we also use the gymnasium as well. But the past 2 years, we've hosted 20 different high school teams in the regional area that come and they compete. And we're so busy hosting that we don't actually compete ourselves. We just kind of make sure that everything runs smoothly for them. And the kids are amazing. They really are. I mean, they go out of their way to make sure everything runs smoothly, and they essentially run the show. They MC. They make sure that the teams they have everything that they need. They're very supportive. And I also do want to mention how awesome they are with outreach to the elementary school robotics kids, helping with the science fairs. They're always willing to turn on the robot and let the little kids play with it. It's pretty amazing stuff. And one other thing I do want to mention is that PTC is one of our sponsors for FTC. That Amy mentioned before, Parametric Tech Corporation, they do give us a grant yearly. So far, we have been fortunate enough to get one of their grants, and we do use their modeling software that Amy was mentioning before, which is very expensive and also amazing to actually see the kids use it, and it does actually sync with a 3D printer. So hopefully at some point we will kind of be able to get down to the 3D printer and put some of the models to work. Just a few pictures here. Like I mentioned before, we do have 20 different high school teams attending our meet. For the past 2 years, it has been held at the Cunningham Collicott, and we are fortunate enough this year to have the Copeland Fieldhouse booked for February 8th, which is a Sunday, and we are really excited to actually
Circle
have
your
that
calendar.
much more space. The Fieldhouse is gigantic. It's perfect with the tiered seating, and we can use the sides for the pits. We are really excited to be able to host the meet there for the 3rd year in a row. So we're very pleased about that. The last center picture here is our placement last year at our qualifying meet. Milton placed 4th in the robotics tournament out of 32 teams. And we were fortunate enough to win the Rockwell Collins Innovation and Design Award for our robots design. And that's a picture of us, the team and the trophy. And that's about half of our team. The other half was still cleaning up the robot and taking care of everything. But we do have about 15 kids in the FTC robotics program, and we have about 6 for the Zero robotics. So hopefully that number increases next year. That's all I got.
I would like to add just one thing. Mr. Diamond ran a very successful summer program that reached out to interested 4th and 5th grade students all about robotics. It was a week-long camp that took place here at Milton High School, and Mr. Diamond and his robotics team were the instructors for that week. And it was a great fundraiser for the team, but the students also had a lot of fun, and we hope for this to become an annual fundraiser for our robotics club.
Just, he had mentioned what a great job the team does with outreach. I can't say enough about this group of kids on the robotics team. They have in the past come to science fairs, and they do just let the kids play with this robot. They are so fascinated by it. I mean, you had a connection with Marilyn Decker before I was in this position, and they've been doing the science fairs for a while now. And they're fantastic with the kids. And then recently, the Glover School started something similar. They started a First Lego League Club, which is somewhat similar but very scaled down to be developmentally appropriate for 5th graders. So there are a few kids in the 5th grade that are involved at that at Glover, but you needed to have this specific field table that was all sorts of, it was just very specific and time consuming. And I ran into one of the robotics kids at the high school and I said, hey, do you know anything about the First Lego League table? And he said, oh, we could build that for you in one day. So I emailed John, and they did. We dropped off the wood, and they built the table, and they were so enthusiastic about helping. They are the kindest group of kids, so I can't say it enough. So thank you, and them.